Unfiltered Trainer podcast. I'm your host, Gina, aka Gina Marie Fit, and I feel like it has been a minute since we have had any sort of conversation because your girl has been down bad. So those that know, I went away for Christmas break. I went back to my hometown, had a wonderful time in the frozen tundra that was Northwest Pennsylvania, and I came back on my deathbed, it felt like. So on my day back, what should have been a 2-hour flight ended up being a 12-hour travel day, and I feel like that is what just solidified the already fatigued, unwell human being that I was. I had just come off a stint of working for like 3 weeks straight. Your girl was just burning the candle at every single end and just tossing the candle into the flames. There's so much to accomplish before the end of the year. And I knew that when I went home, I was going unplugged for 4 days, which is something I do not do. I did not want to do anything other than be present with my family. That was actually one of my goals for the end of the year, was to establish boundaries and balance. And I know that those two things sometimes are often laughed at, but I am learning that you can't always have them all the time, but they can happen. And so I had a wonderful time at home with my family and my friends that are like family. I didn't get to see everybody, which really hurt my heart. So on my last day, I felt myself just having a hard time, just squeezing everybody a little tighter, because I know I am in pretty much the biggest season of grind I have ever been in, and you'll hear about that in today's episode. There's a lot of things that I was privately working on that are going live within the next 3 months. And it's going to take me being on my A game and then some to really establish the foundation for what my bigger goals are this year. And so one benefit of being very unwell in the last week was that on New Year's Eve, I obviously was not well enough to go out or do anything. I was on a bunch of medicine, so drinking was not on the table. I actually went into my apartment's business center and sat down in one of the offices by the printer and just started mapping out my life. I made a 2025 game plan. I wrote a book, which we will talk about. I literally came up with an event schedule, social media ideas. I don't know what happened, but it was like somebody ignited a fire under my ass, and I needed it. Because when you think about the end of the year and the beginning of the year, there's a lot of moments to be very introspective, reflective in general. And I was having a hard time because I didn't have anything to gauge the success or failures of my year, because at the end of 2023, I was in so much physical pain. There was no way I could have wrote a goal list or a vision board. I was just praying to survive at that point. I was down bad post TBI, in the thick of trauma therapy, going through brain injury therapy. It was just a lot. And at the time, the headaches I was having, I could have just had somebody cut my head off, and I think I would have just been okay with it at that point. I was truly in so much physical pain that existing was a chore. And so when that year ended, I am not normally the type to wish time away, because with how many people I've lost in my life, I won't do that, because I feel like it is so selfish. However, if you would have told me 2023 would have been as bad as it was, I honestly was okay with seeing it go. Not gonna lie, was definitely not my best year. Not proud of myself or that year, but ending it with a TBI and just everything happening with that accident, which still is happening to this day. This is not done. I'm not done with therapy. It's not resolved. It's a mess. Still continues to be a mess. And so a lot of it I was keeping very close to the shield, as they say, was not, and still fully have not really let people know just the severity of that situation. Part of me doesn't want people to know because in some way that makes me weak. But I ran into somebody a couple weeks ago who I have not seen since the accident. I'm telling you, when I dipped for months. Like, other than work, you did not see me. You did not hear about me. Your girl was like, I was gone. And this person had apologized because they did not know the severity of my situation. And it was part of somebody that I knew had been judging me, which was fine. Like, we all have these moments where we judge other people. We're human. I don't take it personal, honestly. But they had said, had they known how bad it was, you know, they would have reached out, or they wouldn't have judged, whatever, you know, the whole spiel. And in my heart, in my head, I always tell people, but why do we have to know something or experience it to believe it? This person had a traumatic accident, myself, and after a few months of, you know, just kind of getting out of the really, really severe part of passing out every time I stood up, and just always being nauseous and throwing up, and just being in such searing pain I couldn't be in any type of social situation. The doctors really explained to me just how near fatal that accident was. And I don't know. I just feel like you shouldn't have to know the details to be understanding and empathetic. But at the same time, that was also not a period of my life of my proudest time. So not everybody was in my corner back then, and I wouldn't have been in my own corner, to be quite honest. And so it just really made me take a second to think, maybe one day this year, we will have the conversation. And I will be very honest about what happened and why I have hid the majority of just how bad things were, and the reason why I really did disappear. But it's kind of what the premise of today is about, to be quite honest, because I don't believe in New Year, New You. I think it's complete bullshit. Straight up complete bullshit. The fact that you entice people to think there is something wrong with them, that they have to be a completely different person, is appalling. The most beautiful thing in this life that I have learned in the last 365 days of literally fighting for my own is the beauty in growth. And to have such a beautiful journey that is valuable, that truly transforms, it's going to be dark sometimes. It can't all be light. It can't all be success. It can't all be easy. Sometimes fighting for what you want not only solidifies how bad you want something, but it ensures that you are in the appropriate place to be deserving. And that's why I think I had to go through what I went through, because I wasn't. And so why I get so bothered by New Year, New Me is because being a new version of yourself wipes away the previous version. But you can't be the next chapter without all of the other chapters. And we should not have to be ashamed of our mistakes, our missteps. Maybe we've wronged somebody. Instead, we should be healing, growing, apologizing to move forward. So in my eyes, that's why we've called today's episode Breaking Free from the Cycle of Unmet Resolutions, Setting Intentions versus Resolutions. Because to resolve means to change, versus being intentional resonates more in the sense that when you have most resolutions that people set are failures, but yet setting intentions becomes a more effective approach. Resolutions can be very surface level. Being intentional usually is more deep-rooted. So it's important to align your goals with your values and your truest desires, not just what society or social media tells you should be doing, which can be a serious struggle because we are all inundated with other people's lives on social media. The empowerment focus of this comes by inspiring you, hopefully by the end of this episode, to stop repeating the same old patterns of starting strong and then burning out, and encourage you to set goals that excite and entice you, that make you feel alive instead of just being obligatory. You just don't want to do what you feel obligated to do. You should be establishing a foundation as the year begins, and there's no start or end date on this. If you know me personally, you know damn well that January is a holiday post-coma of sugar cookies for me and prime rib. I have traveled. I have annually have worked a ridiculous amount of hours in the last quarter to get to the new year, and have been off my routine because when I go home, I do not work out. So for me, there's usually a 3 to 4 week window where your girl doesn't know where she is, what she's doing, or where she's going. And then somewhere around the beginning of February, it becomes game on. I sadly usually take a month to get my life together. We're trying not to do that this year. But in order to do that, when I was sitting down on New Year's Eve, I don't know, it was like the world just was like, this bitch is ready. Like, she fought. She has healed, she has grown, she is working to, make up for the mistakes she's made, and just generally just trying to be a better human being, one that I don't have to be like disappointed with. And it just changed the trajectory of how I was going to go into not only this episode, but the beginning of my own life and my own year for 2025. So in order to do different things and to have a different outcome, I knew I had to go about things differently. So I created what I call my own badass affirmation. And this was the premise for me to be able to rewrite my story. And so I'm going to read you mine. My 2025 affirmation. You've not only created the life of your dreams, you've transformed yourself and the lives of so many others. You are strong, capable, and unstoppable. Keep going. The next chapter is already unfolding, and it's going to be even more incredible than the one you just completed, your 2025 self. So, I want to help guide you through the process of creating a personal affirmation that will resonate with your identity and your goals for the year. What's important is the power of affirmations in transforming the way you talk about yourself, and it will help you reshape the limiting beliefs you have. You really have to emphasize the importance of being raw, real, and authentic in your journey in preparation to lay the foundation for which you will reshape your thought patterns so that it's not just generic phrases that don't actually connect or resonate with you. So something I did, and I highly encourage you to do, is to sit down with yourself. Type it, write it, whatever you got to do. What do you want? Like dead ass, what do you want? Not what society tells you, not with what you can think you can achieve because of the balance in your bank account. What do you want? If there was no limitations in life, nothing you've been through, nothing you're going to go through, write this affirmation that will help you take control of your own narrative instead of letting these external influences dictate who you should be. Legit, you will transform, and the way you see your life will transform. So I'm going to give you 5 raw, real, and authentic affirmations that are designed to empower you to take charge of your own unique journey. I choose to embrace my flaws because they are the soil from which my strength and resilience grow. I will not apologize for taking up space, for my voice matters, even when it's trembling or I'm unsure. I have survived everything that was meant to break me, and I carry those lessons as fuel for what's next. I'm not here to be perfect. I'm here to be real, to show up raw, and to trust that every step I take is my own. I am allowed to outgrow people, situations, and versions of myself that no longer align with who I am becoming. So just use those as a guide to create your own badass affirmation. I want you to rewrite your story. And if you're brave enough, because you know I love to give some type of takeaway, we're going to give it early today. I want you to create yours, share it on your social media, and tag the Unfiltered Trainer. And I'll share it too. And I will send you a little message, because the whole point of this passion project that is this podcast is to give people a resource, support, and an ear. So if there's anything you're struggling with or you're having trouble creating your own affirmation, DM the Unfiltered Trainer and I will help you walk through it. Number 3, the power of self-awareness comes from recognizing where you've been and where you're going. There is nothing more crucial than the importance of self-awareness and personal growth. Before you can level up, you have to acknowledge where you've been and how far you've come. In order to do this, you have to reflect on past cycles. They may include toxic habits or people, limiting beliefs, unsupportive environments. They can be incredibly powerful in shedding light on other areas of needed growth. And they can also be slightly traumatic because in order to reflect, you sometimes have to relive. And we're not always ready to relive circumstances of our past because we don't always heal from them before we move on. And sometimes, like as you guys have experienced on this podcast, for me, I am always triggered between August and September. I have worked on it. I am still working on it. But at the time of that year when my life fell apart and I was just losing person after person, no matter how much I do, that time of the year comes around and I become unwell. It just reminds you that your past should not come with shame. Instead, your past becomes the fuel in which you propel yourself forward. Please create a no apology zone where you stop freaking apologizing for your mistakes. You are human. We are all human beings. And if somebody comes, like I am working on, and does the work to grow and is genuinely apologetic, take that as it may be. You may not want to interact with that person. There are people that probably don't want to ever see me again. That's cool. We all right. However, you have to be able to live with yourself. And when your time comes, like I think about with myself, regardless of what you believe in, God, universe, nothing, I firmly believe I'm going to answer for how I lived my life one day. I don't know how, but I know it's coming. I know that I got to be good in my soul to get to where I need to go. And in order to do that, it's going to come with the self-awareness to know that we have a big hand in the things that we do to other people and things that are done to us. So sometimes with that, you will have to find your own sense of closure because you may not be privy to accessing those people because of things you have done or things that have been said or hell, things they've done to you and said about you. You don't have to physically be in the presence of somebody to have closure. Self-awareness leads to self-empowerment. So part of this growth, this journey, this true sense of leveling up in 2025 comes with the need for you to be aware of your own actions, your own thoughts, your own words, because at the end of the day, no one's perfect and no one's innocent. Number 4, in order to level up in your environment, this one's going to be hard. You have to surround yourself with people who challenge you, not enable you. I'm going to say it again. In order to level up your environment, you have to surround yourself with people who challenge you, not enable you. What do I mean by that? If the people in your life can't be real, can't be honest, and can't call you on your bullshit, those are not the kind of people you need in your life to grow. Relationships, friendships, and social circles directly influence your growth, and they can also limit your growth. If every person in your life is telling you, oh my God, you're amazing, that's awesome, how are you ever going to be more or do better? If they don't call you out when you're wrong, how will you improve your relationships? How will you learn? Leveling up just isn't about personal effort. It's about cultivating an ecosystem that supports and challenges your growth. Now, I need you to listen. So whatever you're doing, pause. This is where I am giving you the permission that you need, because I know I had to do this last year and it's not easy. But it's time to cut ties with the toxic people or relationships that drain you. It's time to surround yourself with people who lift you up, who push you to be the best versions of yourselves, as cliche as that sounds, and people who will inspire growth in every aspect of your life, and then you too can reciprocate. A lot of life is unbalanced. Relationships are not 50-50. But you need people who can be there for you, and you need to be there to reciprocate that same energy for people. And you can't do that if you are hanging out with toxic people who trigger you to be the worst version of yourself. Now listen, part of growth, even though we might go to therapy, we might heal, we might listen to all the personal development and do all the things. Those not so nice habits and tendencies that we have sit somewhere deep inside of us. And when we are not in alignment, not surrounded by the right people, and not being our best, they will come out with a vengeance. It's like that cartoon character where you have an angel and devil on your shoulders. Somewhere deep inside of you, those not so pleasant habits, characteristics, tendencies, they are still present. They are there. And I sometimes find myself saying, hello, circle it back, Gina. Circle it back because you're being judgmental. And you wouldn't like if somebody judged you like that. So why the hell are you doing it? And I have to really call BS on myself. Here's why this is hard. These people may be in your immediate life. I know it's sad because not everybody's friends or family are the healthy environments that you need to be in to breed the kind of success you want to achieve. And so that is why I mentioned at the beginning of the episode the importance of boundaries, because sometimes you can't sever ties with everybody necessarily. We could talk about this in another episode and go a little deeper, but for purposes of today's resolution intention episode, you may just have to set boundaries. You may have to take your time when you receive a text message from a certain somebody and their name comes across your phone and you stop breathing like I do. There are some people that still trigger me. And when I see their name populate, I have to just take a second to breathe. Give myself some time, might be 5 minutes, might be 3 hours. And then I open the message when I'm damn well and ready. And that is setting boundaries, because we sometimes have to interact with people that we might not necessarily love, like, or respect. However, And feel free to fight me on this, but I will put this on my gravestone and I will die on this statement. I firmly believe that in order to be at peace and to get to where I want to go when my time comes to an end, I got to be right with my soul. And in order to be right with my soul, I firmly believe that just because somebody does something to me or says something about me does not elicit a response that reciprocates their energy. Just because somebody doesn't treat me the way I treat them does not mean that I will lower my standards. Instead, I try my hardest to do right by people, regardless of if it's reciprocated, because at the end of the day, my belief is that I'm answering for the way I lived my life. Don't know where, don't know who, don't know how it's going to happen. But in my heart of hearts, I believe that. And I don't think they're going to ask me why on Tuesday in 2023, I responded to Susie when Susie said this. Instead, I will be asked, why did I act the way I acted, knowing damn well and better that's not who I am? Just in my heart of hearts, that's what I believe. And I feel like when you are faced with people that you just not necessarily want to be associated with or who trigger you the most, this is a challenge. And I know this is hard because sometimes you just want to pop up on somebody, Sometimes you just want to slap a bee, but you can't, assault's real and slander is real. But you can rise above it. You can let that person say whatever mess they want to say. Because let's be real, we've talked about this 1,000 times. Just because somebody says something about you doesn't speak on you. That says everything you need to know about them. And if people join in, that should be your red flag to get yourself out. Because anytime a group of grown-ass adults gang up on somebody and talk a lot of shit about somebody, those are not the kind of people at this stage in the game, honey. If you listen, and I'm 30 plus 37, I am too old. I am too grown for games. I don't want to be around people that are talking about other people. I don't. I'd rather be chilling at home watching Harry Potter in my PJs, eating my snacks, than ever surround myself with people talking about somebody else negatively. Because, no. Too many of us have been through too much. We have made too many mistakes in our life to ever be putting ourselves on a pedestal to talk down about other people. Hell to the no, ain't gonna be me, rather be at home alone. And that's part of this year for me. When I said I set boundaries and I pulled back, I removed myself from a lot of friend groups because they either weren't going anywhere, weren't reciprocating in effort and energy, were dramatic and talked about people, or were people that brought up situations, circumstances, and scenarios that I made my own closure from, and I didn't want to speak on those things because at the end of the day, there are 3 sides to every story, and when things go wrong, both sides have a hand in them. No one's perfect, but I digress because it's time to talk about the most important part of this topic, because it's about taking massive action. And if there's one freaking thing I do well, it's work. My whole life, the only way I have leveled the playing field is with my intelligence and my work ethic. I am grateful that I was blessed to be as smart as I am because I had to work 2 jobs during school when I was taking 19 to 21 credits and got a 3rd job in the summer. Had I not been as smart as I was and actually had to study the way you probably should have studied in college, I would not have amassed anything, to be quite honest. I definitely think we would not be where we are today. And also, my work ethic. I watched so many people I love and care about in my world back home. The world I come from back home looks nothing like the world I live in Tampa. And every time I go home, I'm humbled, I am reminded, and I am reinvigorated. because I go back to a world who their resources are not met. People do not have what they deserve. There is not a lot of opportunity like there is down here, but they're all wonderful people. There's so many good people that they're living less than paycheck to paycheck. And it just pulls at my heartstrings, and it's why I bust my ass so much here, because I have big goals for my charity organization, and they're not just limited to the Tampa Bay zip codes. If I can find a way and work hard enough to make it happen. But what I'm good at is taking massive action. I have an idea, game on, already done, outlines done, phone calls made, there's a scheduled date, tickets are already done. You know, anytime I'm given a project, something to do at work, I always tell my bosses, no disrespect, don't need anything other than, hey, this is what I need. Here's the date I need it by. Here's the expectations. Okay, now I'm going to go exceed those expectations. I'm going to beat that deadline. That is just the way my brain works. That is just who I am. I am very good at taking massive action. And also what I'm recognizing is that I have always been a coach in some manner, but I've learned everything myself. I didn't go to school for business. I didn't go to school for nonprofit organization establishment. I didn't go to school for law and taxes, but I've learned it all. Is that some way this year, or who knows, in years to come, I would love to help other people figure it out and take their own massive action. And I think it starts with this podcast and this platform. But I want to be the person that gives you the courage to start and helps you be the person that teaches you the discipline to keep going when times get tough. Motivation is fleeting. Honestly, straight up, I think motivation is bullshit. Like straight up, I think it is a figment of our imagination and it is nonsense, because discipline is what builds lasting change. Oh, I know, I can feel it in my bones. You're coming for me right now. I know, because everybody hates when I say that I don't believe in motivation, because I don't. But everybody will respond with, but you have to be motivated to start. No, you don't. No, you don't. Honey, I started out of fear. There are parts and stories and chapters in my life I have never spoken about that still to this day, when I think about, I just start crying. I started out of fear because there was a period of my life where I had it all and it was gone so fast. I didn't know who I was, what I stood for, where I was going to live, nothing. I had nothing. I lost it all. I lost people that were literally a support system to me. And it took me being in the depth of my depression to come out freaking swinging out of fear. I did not start my fitness journey out of fear. I started my fitness journey out of shame because my life fell apart and I gained 30 pounds. I did not start my business out of motivation. I started my business because I was terrified of financial instability and I was drowning in debt. I was drowning in student loan debt, making $1,200 minimum payments, working 7 days a week, 0 days off all month, wondering how the hell I was going to survive. I have done nothing in my adult life because I was motivated. Most of the time, there was some traumatic ass experience or situation that caused me to elicit a change in my life, and then I took massive action and changed it. But I don't keep going because I'm motivated. Most of the time, I'm just terrified. And most of the time, your girl just keeps coming up with more things to do. And then I get distracted and I focus on another goal. And then somehow I keep going because I found something else to do. And I keep filling my plate. And that's probably a defense mechanism, which we'll probably talk about one day as well. But the reality is, you got to create momentum. All that nonsense I just said to literally tell you, when you create momentum, When you create habits and routine and consistency, you overcome procrastination. You overcome every self-limiting belief. You overcome it all. And as a result, you don't have to keep waiting for the perfect moment or to feel ready, because newsflash, don't want to ruin your whole 2025. But if you wait until you have the perfect moment or you feel ready, it's going to be 2030, 2035, 2040. There has never been a more perfect moment or a moment to be ready other than this moment right now. Other than the fact that you are alive, you are breathing, and you have the means to live to see another day. That's it. Nothing in this life is guaranteed. Doesn't matter how good your business is, how strong your family is, how great your support system is. Nothing is guaranteed. In my short little life, everything that has ever brought comfort or stability or joy has been shaken, broken, or taken in one way or another. And because of that, I have taken this imperfect action approach to literally transforming my whole freaking life from something I thought I'd be doing with my life to avenues that I never thought I'd see the day, and still stutter when I say I own businesses. Imperfect action means starting right here, right now, even if it's just a small step to get your little fingers going on Google or YouTube, like I did when I started coming up with this crazy concept that now has put me in meetings with lawyers to talk about the fact that I have what may be a much larger business than I ever intended. Idea, I should say, for a business, and put myself in the position to need a lot of counsel. Y'all, you have to just freaking do it. Done. Let me tell you, hear me when I say, listen up, I am clapping with my hands right now. Done is better than perfect. Chalene Johnson said that at a health and wellness conference years ago. And literally, that was it for me. That simple statement, done is better than perfect. Because once it's done, you always can improve it. You can make it perfect. You can always better it. But if you don't have it, it's not going to happen. Which is why, as we end today's podcast, on New Year's Eve, I wrote a book. You're probably like, what the hell? I don't know. It just happened. It's comical in the sense because this is so on brand for me. But I had an idea. And if I've had $1 for every single time somebody told me I needed to write a book, we would have funded this book by now. But I wrote a book, and it's more like a guide, but it's a lot of pages, way more than I thought. And it's called The Badass Blueprint. And The Badass Blueprint is a guide that will enable you to tap into your inner badass to create your personal, professional, and health goals for 2025. It is your ability to take the first step to designing a 2025 that's nothing short of extraordinary. It's not just another goal-setting guide. It is your personal blueprint for success that is built on the foundation of your unapologetic self-worth, your bold ambition, and the powerful belief that you are capable of achieving whatever you set your mind to. Y'all, that's the first paragraph, just saying. So I'm currently, as this is coming out on Tuesday, finishing the edits as I asked some of my followers on Instagram I gave them the download and I asked them for their feedback. I asked them for 7 to 10 business days. So nutty. But once I get their feedback, I'm going to finish it and I'm going to publish it and you are going to be able to purchase it. It is going to be cheap because realistically, for me to start when I started now 10 years ago, I didn't have the money for a course or a coach. I didn't have the money to do anything. But it would have been real freaking helpful if I had just a simple guide, something like I've created, that really is just the foundation of your badass blueprint that will help you set yourself up for success in all areas of your life. So, if you're listening, if you don't follow me, I'm going to release it on social media. So you can follow me at the Unfiltered Trainer. You can also follow my personal account, Gina Marie Fit. But I'm going to drop this guide and I'm going to make it affordable. And I don't care if one person buys it or 1,000 people buy it. This is just what I set out for my 2025 was to produce resources to help other people help themselves to curate a better quality of life, emotionally, physically, mentally, and spiritually. Because there's affirmations, because I love some woo-woo shit. So, stay tuned for that. If nothing else, your takeaways for today's episode are to sit down with yourself, reflect, heal, put yourself in a position of growth so that when the time comes, whether it's in 2 days, 2 months, or 2 years, and you are aligned with your destined path to elevate outside of any thought pattern or process you thought was possible, you'll be ready and you'll take massive action, just like I have, and you'll set yourself up for living a life that is beyond your wildest dreams. Y'all, thank you for tolerating my voice. I know it does not sound that great. My throat is starting to hurt because I've been talking for so long. But just know in my heart of hearts, I appreciate every single one of you so freaking much. I have a lot coming down the pipeline this year. And I know it's all going to happen. And that's the incredible part of growth. Because a year ago, when I sat on this podcast, I didn't even know if I'd still finish the year with the podcast, let alone to start a year full of inspiration, empowerment, enlightenment, and joy. There's nothing you can't overcome. Please know that. Please don't ever forget that. No matter how dark the days, no matter how lost, down out you are. If I can turn this life around, so can you. And you don't have to do it alone. All right, y'all. Stay tuned, and I will see you in the next episode.